Hi there, everyone, and welcome to the second annual NHSGA Virtual College Golf Recruiting Webinar. And my name is Chris Noble, and I manage the National High School Golf Association. We're so excited to share some amazing insight, perspectives, and really help for all of you out there going through this exciting and challenging time to reach that level of collegiate golf. Now, I'm joined tonight by my colleague, Chris Hart, who is our Senior Director and also runs the NHSGA with me. We want to take a quick moment to thank our presenting partners, Titleist and FootJoy, for their support of high school golfers everywhere and their involvement with this event. We also want to thank Junior Golf Hub, who is a partner for our National Invitational Tournament that we'll be hosting at Pinehurst this June. And last but not least, we also want to thank Thomas Hutton and the South Texas PGA section and all of the 41 PGA sections. So a couple housekeeping items. For all of you that are joining live here tonight, we have a chat feature. Chris will just type in a quick plug there. So you can type in your questions for the presenters in that chat box. We're going to do our best to get to everybody's questions for all of the segments. So obviously we have a lot to get through here tonight, and let's go ahead and introduce some of our first speakers. So first up, we have PGA Tour player Lonzo Griffin. And Lonzo is originally from Virginia. He played all 4 years at Virginia Commonwealth University, and he won his first PGA Tour event at the 2019 Houston Open. And joining Lonzo, and really leading the conversation for the next hour, we have 2020 PGA National Teacher and Coach of the Year, Mr. Mark Blackburn. And Mark founded Blackburn Golf in 2000 and continues to work with golfers of all levels, not only at the PGA and LPGA Tour, but including many junior and high school students. So with that, Lonzo, Mark, thank you so much for joining us here tonight, and I will let you guys take it away.
Great to be with you guys. Hey, Lonzo, how are you? I know you're in NOLA, playing in the team event this week, so I guess we'll kick it off with how is it playing with a partner this week versus playing just on your own? Probably a little bit like college golf.
You know, it is a lot like college golf, and I was fortunate to play in the QBE shootout a couple months ago with Mackenzie Hughes, so I got a feel for the team event, and it's a lot of fun. It's every single week we kind of feel like we're on our own. Everything's on us, and then for a couple weeks of the year we get to have a partner and have somebody to have our back and kind of have that team feel. So I'm lucky to have Joel Damon. He's one of the funniest guys on tour. Him and his caddy are hilarious. So it's going to be a really fun week. We're both looking forward to it.
You probably get some good food down there in New Orleans as well. So
no doubt. The lunch today was incredible. So New Orleans knows their food, right?
Absolutely. So for you folks watching, I think you're going to get a really nice blend this evening of ways that people kind of came to college golf and from high school all the way through, and the journey that Lanto took and Paddy later. And then I'll give you some insight on mine. And we all kind of come from it from a different perspective. So Lanto, I want to start with you, and you kind of have what I would call a very unique sort of start in golf. You didn't necessarily come from a golfing family. Your parents were kind of hippies, so I've heard in a Golf Digest article. So why don't you kind of tell us how you got interested in the game and your background? Because I think for lots of folks listening that aren't necessarily from golfing families who are parents or juniors, I think it's really insightful because there's lots of different ways and paths to college golf and to the PGA Tour.
Absolutely. So I grew up, I was in love with pretty much any sport from about 6 to 9 months old. Baseball, couldn't get it out of my hand. So growing up, I played everything. Baseball and soccer were my main sports, and then basketball and tennis, stuff like that. And I think we went to played against sports and got $1 per Simmons driver, and my dad took me out to the baseball field, and I just hit some balls, and I liked it, but I was playing everything at the time. When I was 8 years old, my dad got me a set of golf clubs, a set meaning a 5, 7, 9 iron driver putter from my first junior set. And so I went from playing probably a standard length persimmon driver at the age of 6 or 7 years old to having some clubs that fit me. And And I started playing at the Hill. There's a municipal course in town. My dad would take me out there probably once a month or something like that. And, I loved it. I loved being outdoors. I think part of the reason I liked golf so much is it took so long. Where baseball and, games like that only lasted an hour, where golf I got to play for 2, 3, 4 hours. And I think I just fell in love with the individualism of golf. You didn't need a team. You could go out and practice whenever you wanted. And so then, we moved into town next to the Hill, and it was about a 2-block walk from my house. And they had a rate of $9 to play all day, about a 2,700-yard 9-hole course, straight up and down, called the Hill for a reason. So on weekends I'd go out there and I'd play all day. I'd play anywhere from 36 to 54 holes, and I was allowed to walk there and walk home. So those are some really good memories. I think anytime you have a place that feels like home, and I'd go play with all my buddies that play soccer, I fell in love with the game, and probably when I was 9 or 10.
About you played all different sports. So obviously moving into golf, do you think that was something that made golf easier for you, that you played lots of different sports, baseball you alluded to, soccer, and things that made you a better athlete? Like, did you think that gave you kind of a head start in golf?
I wouldn't necessarily say a head start necessarily. It gave me the hand-eye coordination. It gave me that, that athletic drive. But I think what I see is a lot of younger juniors, say the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds that play a nationwide schedule, go overseas, and they're winning everything. Eventually there's going to be guys or kids that start later that maybe develop more. These kids go from winning constantly to maybe, they have 4 or 5 players in the field when they're 8 years old, and then when they get 12, 13, they start losing. And losing is, in my opinion, at a younger age, is good. You learn a lot from losing. And I mean that in a way that, you're not beating the field by 10 shots every week, and there's some competition. So I think for me, I got a late start. I didn't start playing any golf tournaments until I was 13. Those were 9-hole local tournaments. So I think I always had that carrot where I felt like everybody was better than me, and I needed to work harder than everybody to kind of catch up. And I think basketball and soccer and baseball kind of gave me that. I had an idea what I needed to do from an athletic standpoint. I think all that kind of it drove me to working harder. And when I was 13 is when I quit soccer and baseball and I started playing golf full time.
So talk about a little bit. I think that a lot of times folks think they have to play in all of these major tournaments, the HAGAs, these bigger events, but obviously you had a few barriers, and I know that you didn't go the normal route. So talk to us a little bit. You kind of got a later start, 13, but what did you do in these events that you were playing in? How did you kind of pick your schedule? How did you go about it? Or was it just a case of, hey, this is all I could play in? I think that's a really important thing for people to understand is you don't have to just be an AJGA All-American to make it to college and to play college golf.
Yeah, you're 100% right. There's a Roanoke Valley Junior Golf Tour where I grew up in Southwest Virginia. And they were 9 to 18-hole tournaments every week at a different course. I think it cost $10 or $15, and there'd be 10 to 20 kids in it from the local area, and I played every single one of those. And I tell juniors all the time, their parents, the most important thing is keeping score. It's playing a tournament. It doesn't have to be California or Texas, or it can be your local, club championship. It can be a local junior tour. Whatever you can do, whatever tour you can play on and get the most reps in, I feel like it is most important to kind of build, the feel of keeping a score. I talked to my college coach, and he said the most important thing is seeing that kids can go low and the kids can shoot good. So it doesn't have to be all over the country. It can be start out local, play as much as you can, and then kind of branch out if it's important to travel.
Scoring, and I think from a coaching sort of mindset, scoring is what we're all trying to do. There's lots of different recipes, if you like, to score well, but at the end of the day, college coaches, high school coaches, the professional ranks, golf is ultimately about the score that you write down on the scorecard. So I think, would you say that playing events and volume of holes is a big contributor to learning to score, which maybe you can touch on. I think scoring is a skill. It's almost an art in itself, and there's no substitute for reps for that, right?
Absolutely. There's nothing like the pressure. You can sit on the driving range, you can sit on the putting green and try and put pressure on yourself, but until you get under the gun and you can only have one shot at it, there's nothing like it. So coaches are going to recognize good scores, and the more golf you play, the more comfortable you're going to be under pressure. You can look at my, going to my rookie year on the PGA Tour, I felt like a fish out of water. I struggled hard. By the end of my rookie year, I think I made the last 6 to 8 cuts. It's kind of right when I started feeling comfortable out here, and then I lost my card. I had to go back to the Corn Ferry Tour. I got my card back, and when I got my card back, I immediately felt comfortable. And so I kind of look at that as kind of the same thing in junior golf. The more you put yourself in uncomfortable situations, which is tournament golf, you're going to get comfortable. You're going to learn what works best for you under pressure, what's going to work. So for me at least, things that work on the driving range don't always work in tournament golf. If you keep pulling 7 irons back, you hit 30 or 40 drivers, eventually you're going to get into a rhythm and you're going to figure out a groove on the range. But you got on the golf course, you might only hit one 7 iron 4 hours. You might only have to hit one driver with a draw. So playing golf tournaments is by far the best way to kind of advance. It doesn't matter if it's 8 people in the field or 200, you're going to feel that pressure. And so to develop a junior golfer, I feel like playing as many local events as possible is the best way to kind of grow your game.
All right, so we'll talk about development here. And so I'm going to say a name, and obviously the PGA of America are very influential in nurturing junior golfers and helping them develop. We like to coach players, and that's kind of our mantra. Is like we're really trying to help people play the game better. So I'm going to say Steve Frader. All right. So I know that he was very influential at Blacksburg Country Club, and I'm going to let you kind of tell the folks about that relationship and how significant that was to you in your development.
Yeah, Steve's he's like a dad, twin coach, best friend, all in one. So when I was 11, my dad passed away, and my dad got me into. He brought me down to some junior clinics with Steve. I think Steve charged $10 for a junior clinic, and he'd have 10 or 15 juniors, and he would give us all a couple minutes of his time. So my dad got cancer, and when he passed away, the day he passed away, Steve called me and knew my family didn't have the money to be a member of the country club, but he gave me a full membership, and he told me he's never going to charge me. So for 17 years, from the age of 11 to 12 to 29, Steve taught me for free. Never charged me a dime, never charged me membership dues, range fees, or anything like that. And he didn't have to do that. He knew he could see something in me. He knew I wanted it. He knew I wanted it bad enough, and he knew I had ability. So I'm so grateful for him to take a chance on me. But luckily, a couple years ago, I put him on salary, and I've been able to kind of pay him back a little bit. I'll never be able to pay him back just for everything he's done for me. But if every local area had a Steve Frader, junior golf there wouldn't be enough holes, enough driving ranges for it. Right now, Steve Frader has 67 juniors that he's teaching at Blacksburg Country Club, and he's got an extreme amount of patience. He loves teaching. He's out there from 8, 9 a.m. to 6, 7 p.m. every single day, and he wouldn't want to do anything else. He's changed a lot of lives. So from a PGA professional standpoint, he's an absolute gem, and I wouldn't be where I am without him. And actually, going back to when I was a junior, I would spend nights at his house because he lived at the golf course. And so I'd spend 3 or 4 nights in a row, and I'd go to the course with him at 7 a.m., hit balls. He would just teach me in between lessons. He'd give me 5 minutes here, 10 minutes here. So I was very fortunate to have him in my life. And I wish I don't know how often that happens around the country, but from a PGA standpoint, if you see a kid that wants it bad enough, kind of give him a little boost, and the world could be his or hers. Absolutely.
I think that if you can nurture kids and kids can surround themselves with folks that that want to help them. And I think that's the PGA coach is a conduit to helping kids learn to play the game and score. And it's things that the PGA Pro isn't just a teacher, but they understand the rules, they understand the culture of golf, and a lot of the doors that they can open. And I think it's really important that for parents out there that are listening and for junior golfers, try and find your local PGA professional or coach who's well known, because they're going to help you be able to open some doors that otherwise you wouldn't be able to. And for you, it was Steve, and obviously that's an incredible sort of story of someone that's helped you get to where you are now. So let's kind of forward a little bit. So obviously you developed, you got better, and you're playing in these junior events, and then you went to Virginia Commonwealth University. So talk to me about how you ended up there. Were there other programs you looked at? What was that? And obviously it's a while ago now, and it's even longer for me when it comes to college, but what was that process like? Because I think people assume there's one way to do it, and again, there really isn't, right?
Yeah, so I have a couple opinions on that. So I wanted to go to Virginia Tech. I had my heart set on being a Hokie. I grew up in Blacksburg, and so I kind of in the back of my mind, I knew I was one of the better players in the state by the time I was a senior in high school, and I kind of assumed that the coach would give me a spot on the team, and I went into his office probably September of my senior year, and basically he told me, we don't have anybody graduating and we don't have a scholarship available, and let's see how you do this winter, and maybe next spring we might be able to give you a walk-on spot. So that crushed me. I mean, I didn't have a backup plan. I wasn't a good enough player to kind of have coaches all over the country flocking on me like a lot of kids do. But the VCU coach, Matt Ball, he actually contacted Steve Frader, and he said he'd followed me in several local state tournaments. He said he'd love to have me, and Coach Ball offered me I think it was an 80% scholarship my freshman year. And for me, financially, where I was at the time, my grades weren't going to get me a scholarship. My grades weren't great. They weren't bad. I think I had maybe a 3.2 in high school, something like that, mainly because I just wanted to play golf all the time. And so when Coach offered me that full ride, from being rejected from the Hokies and having that feeling like I was being wanted by VCU and Coach Ball, it was immediately I was like, I'm in, let's go. And I think back on that a lot. I think my second or third college tournament freshman year, we were playing at Duke, and I ended up beating the entire Tech team. But I was so motivated that week. I just wanted to show them that I was good enough to play for you, and I got to play with Dustin Johnson in the final round at Duke. So my point there is you don't necessarily have to go to Oklahoma State, or you don't have to go to Duke, or obviously we all want to go to the best school and stuff like that. But if you go to a mid-major or even a D2 or D3 school, I always tell kids you want to go somewhere where you can play. And I was able to play all 4 years. I played every single tournament for 4 years, where if I'd gone to Virginia Tech, maybe I wouldn't have played half the tournaments for my freshman year, and I would have gotten down on myself, and who knows where I'd be. But at VCU, I felt like I was a leader. I felt like I was one of the better players when I got there. And for me, it was a perfect fit. So for the juniors that are out there listening, don't always feel like you have to, walk on at a big-time school when you could get maybe a scholarship at a lower-end school and really be able to develop your game. I would definitely look at the facilities that school has. Warm weather can help. If it's in a colder climate, look and see if they have an indoor facility, which kind of golf courses they play on, that type of deal. But, don't always feel like you need to go to that big prestigious school, because it's, you're not going to win on the PGA Tour in college. Not like the NBA or the NFL where they have a draft. PGA Tour, you earn everything. So when you get out of college, more than likely you're going to have to earn your way on the PGA Tour. So going somewhere where you can develop for 4 years, get better, and keep building your game and building confidence. We all know golf is a game of confidence. And going somewhere where you can build that confidence is very important.
So I think that the thing that stands out to me there is the fact that playing, right, you were wanted. So you want to go somewhere. Lots of people want to go to these Power 5 schools where they can say that they carry the bag of the team, but they never play tournaments. So if we go further back, that you've got to be playing events, and you got to get used to being uncomfortable and get comfortable with it playing in events. And you played all 4 years. That's huge because that's the building blocks to allow you to then go to the next level. We'll chat about that in a minute. But I think a lot of times folks feel like, oh, I've got to go to this big school, but it doesn't do you any good if you're sitting at home when the team's traveling. And I think sometimes it's better to be and you can touch on this if you agree, to be a bigger fish in a smaller pond, knowing that you're going to get reps and you're going to get starts because you get comfortable with playing tournaments. And when you get to the PGA Tour, all you're doing is playing tournaments. And I think that the allure of go to a big school doesn't necessarily create a great player in the sense of you're trying to develop. And sometimes if you never get on that bus or that plane to go to an event, you just don't get better, right?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. There's nothing like tournament golf. Like you said, if you're sitting at home, you're the 6 or 7 guy, and you're always qualifying to travel, and you're missing out, it can be discouraging. And if you're on the team, and you're the best player. It motivated me to practice a lot in college. I felt like I was one of the harder workers. And another thing at VCU, I had some teammates that were big into working out and other stuff, and learn from your teammates. When you're going out to your golf course, look what the best players are doing. I feel like that's really important. One thing I didn't touch on earlier, but a lot of junior players, I feel like it's really important to have a strong base of other juniors that you can compete against. Even if you're playing for Powerade or playing 10 push-ups, doing a putting contest, having competition when you're not playing tournaments is very important. So at Blacksburg Country Club, where I grew up, we had about 8 or 10 juniors that we hung out all the time outside of golf, but we would play all day, and we'd always have a little match, a little game. And I see that there's some courses where they're not junior friendly, which is fine, but maybe find a golf course that has a good PGA professional, that has some good instruction. But then also there's other juniors that you can compete against. And I think that's when I really fell in love with golf, is when all my friends were playing, and that's where I wanted to be all the time.
Yeah, the community part of golf, I think, is really important, and it provides that nurturing environment where you're playing with buddies. I grew up in England, and obviously I spent the majority of my time at our club, and that's where I developed a lot of still long-standing relationships, but you also got to interact with older people as well, but you were playing golf all the time, and I think to get to where you want to get, it's one of those things, you've got to be self-driven. Golf's a game where no one else is playing, right? You kind of got to do it, but you've got to, if you immerse yourself in that environment to where you're around it enough, and you're learning something every day. So from the junior into college, so you're a PGA Tour player, you're a PGA Tour winner, Houston Open winner. So tell us how you transitioned from the college ranks, you were there for 4 years, to getting what is now your full PGA Tour card. You alluded that you were on the web, you got it before, lost it, but how did you get, let's go from college to the pro ranks.
Okay, yeah, so when I graduated college, I thought I'd get the mini tours 2 to 3 years. I ended up playing the mini tours for, I think, 6 years. I played all over the East Coast. I played Latin Tour for 2 years, and it just came down to, I felt like I was getting better every year. There's always a hole in my game. Short game was a struggle for me, chipping, pitching around the greens. And when I really started getting better is when the putter I started becoming a really good putter in probably 2013, 2014. I graduated college in 2010. So it took me 2 or 3 years after college to kind of figure that out. And then it's just perseverance for me. I didn't want to get a job. That was always my drive. I didn't want to go get a 9 to 5. I didn't want to get in real estate. I thought about it a lot because there was a lot of tough times for me on the mini tours, traveling all around, nobody watching, credit card debt. But the dream, that carried, the PGA Tour card, was always in the back of my mind, and it always drove me. So now I got on the Corn Ferry Tour, and that was a huge accomplishment for me. That was one of those things when I got on the Corn Ferry Tour, I kind of felt like, no matter what I do the rest of my golf career, I can at least say that I was on the Corn Ferry Tour. I made that. Then I won on the Corn Ferry Tour. I got my PGA Tour card. I felt like no matter what happens the rest of my career, all this hard work got me to the PGA Tour. And then the win in Houston was kind of the the carrot. I mean, that was it. That's what I've been chasing. And you look at the guys that win 10 or 15 times when early in their career. That's not normal. There's thousands of guys that would love to just play on the PGA Tour one year, and we all know how deep golf is. Mini tours, the Corn Ferry Tour to the PGA Tour, and I feel really lucky to be where I am. But at the same time, I know how hard I worked, I know how bad I wanted it. I think that's what kind of helped me get here.
Well, guys, sorry to interrupt, Mark. I wanted to take some audience questions. This discussion's been fantastic. And we'll start. Lonzo, you have a somewhat hometown fan. Jason in West Virginia wants to know, they have a freshman in high school, and this could be for you too, Mark. They're in the cold weather. What do you do during the winter? Like, how do you prepare during the winter, and especially those cold weather states, if you're preparing to be a top junior and trying to get better to get recruited?
That's a great question. So, Jason, thank you for being on here. Steve Frader at Blacksburg Country Club, he set up nets in the tennis room at our club. It wasn't glamorous. It was just a net in kind of a banquet room. And in the wintertime, we worked a lot on technique. Steve was big on work on technique in the winter when it's freezing cold. And then when spring comes, you should be ready to get out and try and be less mechanical, less technical. There are some junior tournaments. I always went down to George Holiday down in Myrtle Beach at Thanksgiving, and I played Doral in Miami. Were kind of my two tournaments in the winter. So that would be kind of a way to get out of the cold, is maybe travel and play one tournament in the warm in the winter. But find a net. It doesn't have to be expensive. It can be in your garage or even in whatever you can do. Just doing indoor reps. You're not going to be able to see where the ball goes, but you should be able to work on some mechanics.
Yeah, I think I'd echo that. Remember, there's no substitute for hitting the ball and getting your reps in, and try and do that technical work away from the golf course. Obviously, the wintertime, I'm here in North Alabama, it still gets really cold. We hit into the nets, the range is closed. And I think the more time you can spend kind of doing that at home, get a mirror. If you don't have a net, you can still make slow motion swings. You can work on your form, doing things to where you're just still engaging and you're still thinking about golf. At the end of the day, that a lot can happen just in that reflection time of like thinking about what you're doing. But again, then try and play some events if you're able to travel and go. It doesn't matter how big the event is, but maybe go to some warmer weather if you can. Carpool with a few folks, go play some events. I think that's important. You've got to keep those competitive juices flowing.
Yeah, it seems like common theme. It's a lot of reps. It's a lot of repetition, and competition's important. Another question that's came up a few times here from Brian, Ryan, Jody. Lonzo, you have a different story, right? Yeah, you wanted to go to Virginia Tech, didn't give you a look, but then Steve, your coach, your PGA coach, was influential to help you get to VCU. So, Mark and Lonzo, any advice of how to get looked, or maybe how to work with a PGA coach to help you get noticed? And I think that's important. Having a good coach is one part of that, and that was crucial for you in getting recruited to VCU. But anything you see in the landscape of best way to get noticed?
Yes. So I actually texted my coach yesterday for VCU, and when you're a mid-major school, you actually it's hard to get the top junior players. So he's looking at lower ranked junior players and trying to find that diamond in the rough and trying to find guys. And a few things he told me. I'm going to read you a text that he sent me yesterday because I asked him this question. He said, play local, learn to win, play adult AMs that are close by. Good scores get noticed. And he said, play in your backyard of school. So if there's a school you want to go to and there's a little junior tournament nearby or an amateur tournament, tell the coach that of the school that you want to go to. Tell them, hey, I'm going to come play there. I'd love to meet you, and make it easy on them. Feed them good news and good scores. Another thing coaches love good attitude. Don't want to see a kid out there pouty and slapping their leg and getting all upset when they're not playing well. They want to see that fire. They want to see that drive, and they want to be able to see a player that might not be the best right now, but they want to see some potential. And I think a lot of coaches. Probably, Mark, you'd probably agree with this, even in a good amateur, a good junior player. When a coach can see a future, can see you really growing as a player and getting better, that's exciting for them, and they want to work with you. But when they see somebody that has a bad attitude, or maybe that's peaked, or maybe doesn't love it as much as as they could, that's when a coach might be like, you know what, I'm not going to take a chance on that kid. But good grades, good attitude, good work ethic, and I think coaches will definitely notice that.
Yeah, for sure. I would say your attitude and the way you carry yourself, your effort, your energy is everything, because you're going to contribute to a college team. And I think I'm always, as a coach, I'm looking for the folks who may not necessarily be as talented, but are the ones that are on the range or on the chipping green or on the putting green where I'm closing up at the end of the day, and they're still there and they're working at it, and they really have a passion for it. I think those are the things, everything Lonzo said about connecting with the college coach, showing your enthusiasm, what you want to do. I think that's really important. But for me as a coach, and we have a lot of juniors here, we have 6 instructors at the academy, like I'm always going to take the kids under my wing that are showing an effort, going the extra mile, because those are the kids that I see myself in, and the players that I coach at the elite level who are, insatiable workers. And golf's a hard game. That's the thing. I mean, it teaches you so many life lessons because it takes a lot of patience, a lot of determination. You hear Lanto's story, but I'm looking for the kids that have that, because to me that's character building, and you're going to have a lot of adversity in life and in golf, and you've got to be able to get yourself back up and just keep going. You get knocked down, you get back up, and you keep trying, and that is the really, golf is so important, and I'm looking for kids that are like that. So, and I think that most of my colleagues and peers as PGA coaches and professionals, that's the thing, we have an affinity for those kids. Hard work, determined, relentless pursuit of getting better is everything to us.
That's it's fantastic. I think, both of you, this has been such a great discussion. I think a few themes, and there was another question about what traits should I have outside of being a good golfer. And I think you guys said it. You got to have a positive attitude and really strong work ethic. Coaches realize that. And, Lonzo, I think, having Steve by your side, like you said, you owe so much to him, and being a big fish in a small pond is a pretty cool thing. And look where you are now. So it's pretty cool. And you said you wanted to wrap up one more thing?
Yeah, one more thing I feel is really important, and hopefully Mark agrees on this, but don't feel like you need to get overcoached. Don't feel like you need to get a lesson every single day. For the people that are out there that maybe can't afford to get lessons every week or maybe even every month, find a junior clinic. You might only need 30 minutes every other month. Just get a little tweak and then go home and work on it. Watch videos, ask questions, and try and be your own coach a little bit. I couldn't be where I am without Steve, but I also didn't have Steve. I see some juniors that have 2 or 3 hours a day or a week with a coach, and they just rely fully on their coach. Be part of the team with your coach and ask questions. Try and learn how to teach yourself and make your own DNA, make your own golf swing, and have a PGA professional, kind of help build that. But don't feel reliant on spending so much money on instruction, because sometimes it can backfire.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. Our job as coaches is we're trying to make people self-sufficient. So I would totally agree with Lanto on that. And remember, everybody's different. Everybody has their own recipe for success. So you have to figure out, just because somebody else might be taking a lot of lessons or someone may not, you've got to figure out what's right for you. But I would say you want ownership of your game, and I totally agree with Lanto. Some people don't need a lot. There's no substitute for the reps and going and playing the game, because as coaches, we can't help players on the golf course. We're not allowed, PGA Tour, we're not actually out there telling them what to do. Can't say anything. So trying to be self-sufficient, our job is to give you the information to be able to help yourself. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, amazing insight, both of you. And Lonzo, again, I speak on behalf of our entire staff and everybody here this evening. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, the incredible insights, and all the best to you. Obviously this week, in the event New Orleans, and for the rest of the season. And really can't tell you how much it appreciates. We appreciate you joining this event and giving back to the high school golf community. Means the world.
Thank you very much, and good luck to everybody that's watching, and hopefully everything works out. Work hard.
Play well this week, buddy.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Lonzo. Wow, just awesome. And as we start to warm up our next presenter here, really excited for her to joining us here tonight, and really one of the most recent major champions from the LPGA Tour. Tonight we're pleased to welcome Paddy Tavitanika, and Paddy is originally from Thailand, and she's actually the second Thai golfer to be awarded the Rolex Junior Player of the Year from the AJGA, American Junior Golf Association, in 2016. For her college days, she played her collegiate golf at UCLA, where she was a 7-time winner and a 2-time first-team All-American at UCLA. Pretty impressive, right? So I'll let Mark and Paddy take it away. And Paddy, thank you so much for joining us here tonight. It's awesome to have you.
Thanks for having me, guys. Hello, everyone.
Hey, Paddy, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Mark?
I'm great. All right, so we're really intrigued. I'm intrigued. I grew up in England, so I'm obviously not originally from America. I am now a citizen. I have American kids, but
cool.
I'm really fascinated to learn a little bit about, obviously, you grew up in Thailand playing junior golf, and then I think the folks would love to know, what was the recruiting process for you? You obviously went to UCLA, but kind of tell us your journey. I'm fascinated to hear this.
Yeah, so I come here every summer to play summer golf. I remember exactly it started way back in San Diego Junior World. I came to play. And back then I still went to like a regular Thai school. I didn't have the same summer schedule like everyone else in the US. So I was actually skipping school to like come play, and I actually skipped like a month of school to come in because I played 2 events here. And so when I went back home, I was like, Dad, like it's not working out. I have to go to an international school where like we all have the same holidays because I love coming here, and one day I want to go to attend college there. And it started from that. So my dad kind of planned out the whole thing of, okay, summer golf in the US, like what you have to do, and learn the language, obviously, because my English is my second language and Thai was my first. So it took a while for me to like kind of learn and ease into this like, American culture a little bit. I feel like I fit in pretty well now.
Yeah.
But back then it took a while. It started at Junior World. I still come every single summer to play Junior World until I was 14, 15, I would say. I started playing AJGA. Just the regular, I started exactly like how everyone else started. You have to go to play like the qualifier, get enough stars to get in, and then hopefully you finish well enough to get the fully exempt into like, a couple of open events for AJGA. And I just remember it was just like a really fun experience to come here and play. And, it was a little tough for me because I was like flying back and forth to play a lot. Towards the end, I got into a lot of the invitational tournaments, like Ping Invitational, Rolex Tournament Champion, that's in summer. The Polo, before when I was playing, it was in November, but they switch it. That's when they're like, giving out awards and the banquet and stuff. So I remember like I had to like work extra hard and skip more school to actually like come here and play. And that's how the recruiting process started. Like I started like, playing well, put my name out there. Coach Carrie Forsyth and Alicia Holmes actually saw me play at the Yanni Sang Invitational down in San Diego one summer. I called them right afterwards because UCLA is such a great school. I got recruited by a lot of top schools as well, including like Duke, University of Texas, University of Arizona. It was a tough choice, but I decided to come to LA, and that's how like the journey started, from junior golf. Gotta reward the AJGA. It's a really great tour for the junior golfers.
So for you, it was really your golf and what the scores that you were posting on the golf course with a hectic travel
Mhm.
schedule, missing lots of schools.
Oh, for
So
sure.
kind of
Yeah.
sacrificing, right, which is a trend that amongst great players, you've got to sacrifice
Yeah.
something to be able to play, if you
Mhm.
like.
Yeah.
That was what was your calling card, if you like. That was what showed the
Yes.
coaches that you play. And then I think it's
Mhm.
important that a lot of folks who are watching, they always talk about, well, I do this really well. At the end of the day, your scores are a reflection of you. They kind of speak about you, right, without
Yeah.
anything else. And I think that it's tough to say it, but golf is
It
a
is.
difficult game, but you've got to post scores. And Lanto talked about playing events. So you didn't actually have, if I'm correct, I could be wrong here, but you didn't actually have a high school team, did you, in Thailand?
I
Your
did
team,
not. I did not have a high school team in my school. That's why I had to go out of my way to play. I was actually on the national team, but like not the main one because obviously if I'm in the main one, I would not go to school. Like they just make like camps. That's how like things were working in Thailand. It was not the path that I was, interested in because I also like really want to be good in school and I like to learn. I like to go to school and, have a normal life like other kids, which I did. And that's kind of, what got me here. Like, I worked really hard in high school just because I was missing a lot of classes. Even though I missed those, I still like try to make up for it. It's kind of a good experience to like prep myself to be in college as well because, in my high school, like there was small classes, like the teacher knows me, like who know who I am, knows where I'm going, was really supportive. Um, but they were also tough. But at the same time, like when you get that transition to college, you learn how to talk to the professor and like, hey, introduce yourself, tell them what's up in my life, tell them like I'm playing golf, I'm gonna be missing a lot of classes. Like, is there any way, I can do to, compensate for like, those misses or like I'm willing to do extra credit if you would like, just stuff like that, reaching out to your professors and obviously, golf itself, like you practice with the team, like it's just gonna play off by itself.
so what did you do from what were the things that you did? So if you didn't have high school golf, were there any domestic tournaments in Thailand, or was it just coming overseas and playing the AJGA? And I guess to that point, you've kind of already said that you had to, you learn how to negotiate with professors early. Was that the
Yeah, I
same
did.
in Thailand? You were like, how did you balance your academics with kind of like the schedule?
If anything, I feel like I had a really tough, high school days, just missing schools and obviously playing overseas. Like it's not even on the time, like the same time zone. It's like completely opposite. Um, so obviously I feel like coming to college, it was a little bit of you know, and like I mean it's not easy, but it's something I was doing, so I was kind of used to it. On top of that, I just feel like I go out of my way to, work hard and kind of like work smart and pick, important tournaments to play to show up. Because leading up to that point, I was already playing like a lot of invitational events. So it was kind of easy for me to just, pick and choose. But I remember like beforehand, I would just go hard like on summer. Like I try to play. I remember like I played 6 events in a row during one summer as a junior golf, and that was a lot. But it was just like, okay, I only have this much time to play compared to every other kids in the States. They have basically like they can play in the fall when they're in school, but I can't like kind of like I can't come here, so I'm gonna have to play like all these events to show, to as a state to show myself to like show my potential to all these college coaches. And if anything, I have like limited amount of time because I only go hard in summer, and then when I'm in school, fall, I focus on school. And if I have to travel somewhere, I would for like I'd say 2 tournaments per semester. That's not a lot, but it was still like, I pick a really big event to play and stuff.
So question I have, so you get to UCLA. So how was let's talk culturally, because you obviously speak two
Hmm.
languages, which is a huge
Yeah.
accomplishment. How did you adjust? Because I'm not exactly sure of what the practices and cultures are in Thailand, but is it conservative, say, versus LA? I mean, LA is the big city, UCLA is probably different. Tell us kind of a little bit about your culturally, how you grew up, and then what it was like coming to America, so to speak, as a student and living the
Hmm.
life.
Yeah, I was definitely living the life. I had so much fun. The 2 years I was at UCLA, I feel like it was a really good self-exploration. Just you were just trying to find who you are. It was a good time, growing up in Thailand for 18 years, it was more like a conservative setting. Um, People are, we look at things differently. We tend to um have the social structure in our mind that things are supposed to be certain ways. People supposed to act certain ways to certain people. Um, and I mean, that's not a bad thing to have. It's like you show I have a lot of respect to a lot of people, especially older people. I always, show respect, and that's just how I grow up. Um, just show a lot of respect, and that's just a part of our culture. But on top of that, I feel like, the whole high school part, I was a little bit of, an odd one when I was back home because I feel like I was just so intrigued and just got like really drawn into the Western and the American culture that, I can't really relate to any of my friends back home or, you know, I had a lot of discussions with my parents and I just think differently and I look at things differently. So when I came to America, it was not a really big adjustment because I feel like I fit in really well here. Especially on top of that, I'm in LA. It's a really diverse community here. A lot of, Asian Americans who understand and have two cultures in themselves. And I feel like people who are in between cultures, they understand what you're going through and you can relate to them more because obviously they speak two languages, they speak, they have to be certain ways when they're at home and they have to be another way when they're at school to fit into the American society. And I feel like I learned a lot of that and I went to an international school, so I mean I was basically speaking English at school and all my teachers were from America, most of them, and I just feel like it wasn't that big of a change to me. If anything, it was the homesick part that really got to me my freshman year, because you had to learn to do everything on your like by your own and especially doing laundry and all that stuff. It was just not a fun thing. But I learned and I eased my way into it.
So what advice then? Obviously, when kids and juniors are going to go to college, a lot of times they're not going to be close to home. I certainly wasn't. I came from the UK, London, to actually to Alabama and then Mississippi. And for you came a long way. What would you say are some things that, getting outside their comfort zone for people? Do you think that to you now as a professional and a major winner, how significant is that process in terms of developing as a person, right? Can you touch a
Hmm.
little bit on that?
Of course, I just feel like, coming here far from home was a big part in establishing myself of who I am as a person, not just as a golfer who plays well on the golf course. As a person, you establish more when you're out of your comfort zone. I just feel like I want to tell, all the young people out there, just don't be scared to be yourself. And I made a mistake, caring a lot about what other people think of me and how I'm supposed to act. I feel like if you just be yourself and find the people that accept you for who you are, like you're not gonna struggle as much. Like I struggle a lot just because I try to, be different things, be different, be a lot of things that people want me to be because, like you want to fit in. But I just feel like every single college, I mean, I've been to like I visited USC a lot. I have a lot of friends there. There's a lot of group of people that you can fit in. You just gotta like branch out, make friends, and be yourself and don't be scared of, adversity and knows that things are going to be tough at times, but stick to your core values and stick to what's important for you as a person. I think that's really important.
This has been great, Pat. I wanted to start to take some questions from live from the audience. Actually, the first one is pretty relevant to you. So Tace is actually from Bolivia, South America, and said, it's not easy for me to get to the U.S. to play in tournaments, obviously, like you did. Were there any any other things that you did, or Mark, maybe even you did in England, to help get recruited? And how do you get noticed by coaches as a foreign player?
Who's going? Am I going?
Go ahead. Ladies first. Always ladies first.
Thank you. I just feel like, you keep playing tournaments, send them their swings. I feel like college coaches nowadays, they're really interested in a lot of international players because they know now, like I feel like a lot of people have proven to them that, there's talents out there in the world, not necessarily in the States. For, as a international player and a student, I just feel like, play as much as you can, play tournaments, local, whatever works. Send them your swing, send them, like the process, like maybe your stats, like so you could, give them a sense of idea of like how you're doing on the course. And, talk to them, reach out to them, tell them you're interested, send them your grades. I feel like that's another way to do it because I was already playing other events in Thailand as well, or like internationally representing Thailand. So the coaches were able to keep track of what I was doing when during the recruiting process. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say for me, I was in the UK. I started golf when I was 14. I played all other sports, and I was very late to the game, and so I was determined I wanted to come to America and play college golf, but I got rejected a lot early by recruiting companies, and then I saved some money up, and my parents kind of matched what I'd saved, and I came and played a golf tournament in 1993. It was called the International Junior, and college coach was in North Carolina. College coaches were there, and I just played a tournament for a week. And so for me, I would tell you, if you're determined to do it, as one door closes, another door opens. It's definitely golf is going to kind of give you a lot of life lessons, and you just got to be determined. And if you want to do it, I think I just kept trying and trying. And one college coaches saw I had pretty good technique. I was I probably wasn't as competent at scoring as I needed to be, but they could see I was really driven, passionate. And I think that tells you a lot. And college coaches know that they can help nurture you, develop you. They've got 4 years to help you contribute. And I think that if people see your work ethic, you're determined, that definitely is a big thing to sort of get noticed, if you like. But your scores are everything. You got to try and score well and then develop the relationships. That's the other part. And be persistent. Got to go the extra mile. And the more, be the squeaky wheel, the more that you kind of keep pursuing it, college coaches know you're serious and that they're likely to take a chance on you. It's like anything in life. It's not just going to come to you. You've got to go get it.
Yeah, those are some great points, and I think it's Lonzo said that last segment too. If you're looking at a certain school, go play a small junior tour and just dominate that tournament. So I think it's there's a question here about high school scores, AJGA scores, junior tour scores, PGA section junior tour scores. Like those are all important. So I think that's important for everyone to be getting as much competition and winning and getting noticed and being that squeaky wheel. Mark, you did bring up a point, and I'll ask both yourself and Patty this, but how, from a coach perspective, also from a player perspective, how involved were your parents in the recruiting process? Or this is from Susie in Michigan. How involved do you think, as a coach, a parent should or shouldn't be involved in the recruiting process?
So I would say, look, I have 3 kids. So your kids you want to do everything for your kids. You want to give them opportunities that you didn't have. And obviously you want kids to find their own way, but sometimes kids don't make the best decisions. So as a parent, I think a lot of times you helping and nurture and try and give them the opportunity to make good decisions is important, but at the same time, you don't want to speak for them. So me as a coach, I encourage parents to come with kids to the lessons, but I also will be fairly quick to say, look, I want to hear what the kid has to say as opposed to the parent. So I think when it comes to this, you want to kind of lead your kids, just like it's me as a coach. I lead players. You strongly suggest. Telling people doesn't really work. You want to kind of take a horse to water you can't make it drink, but you can sure out influence them to do that. So I would say be involved. You want them to make good decisions, and you want them to have options. I always think that having multiple options, Patty said she had different colleges, but she chose UCLA. I think that's important. You want to have options, and sometimes the first option doesn't work out. So help your kids, get them to have options, make them to also see that just carrying a bag from a big name school or Power 5 school isn't necessarily going to make them play great golf. And if they have aspirations to play at the next level like Lonzo or Patty, it's essential that you play and you're traveling and you're playing events and scoring, and that doesn't necessarily happen at big schools for everybody.
I agree with you there, Mark. Especially I just feel like, as a player too, my parents didn't know the language, so it was just all me. I decided everything, I planned out everything, and I feel like in that sense, sometimes, I'm just there sitting by myself. I'm like, man, like I wish I could ask them some of these questions, but they had no clue because they didn't understand how the recruiting process worked, or any of that. I just feel like sometimes I was, really alone. And, just being there, parents being there for their kids, it's an amazing thing. I feel like, as a girl growing up, I look back and I always appreciate, all the sacrifices and the hard work my parents put into. But at the same time, you also want to give your kids some space for them to, I mean, it's their choice, their, decision to make. I feel like that's also important to kind of, be involved, but, not take too much of their space out of it.
Yeah, I think that's awesome that you did it alone too, right? You should be really proud of that because it's not
Yeah.
not an easy process and going through that alone.
No.
And we have a number of parents on here and students. Yeah, we have a few just asking, like Lisa and Emmanuel. They want to know, it might be from your standpoint, Patty, was there something as a junior player? Obviously, you shot some great scores, but was there did you focus on a certain area of your game that helped get you to that next level? And same with Mark, do you work with certain juniors that want to play college golf? Do you have a certain focus, or is it just all about scoring, or you focus on putting? And how do you think about it from a performance standpoint, as a player and also as a coach?
As a player, I feel like I was working on my ball striking a lot, on a golf standpoint, and obviously, um, putting. I developed short game in college just because, there's more resources, there's uh more better practice facilities here, better courses for me to have access to, practice my short game, play different shots. But I feel like my main thing was my ball striking, because that was important. I just feel like if you could, hit it somewhat decent and hit a lot of greens, it would take a lot of pressure out of, having to have a really on point short game. But at the same time, those were important too. If anything, I feel like the mental side of it was really important for me as well. I just, learned how to like manage myself better on the course as, I mature, and get older, and I got better at that. So I feel like there's a lot of aspects into that too.
Yeah, I would say, look, every golfer has a different sort of, if you like, recipe to play the game. Some folks have a drive the ball a long way. Some folks are great iron players. So if you take just the example now, Colin Morikawa has a very different recipe to Matt Wolff, but yet they were both extremely successful in college. And I think that's the same. Lexi Thompson is going to be very different to the way Paddy plays. Every golfer is different. So you can't get caught up in, I have to do this. But I will say this, the way the game is trending, there's no substitute for distance. So hitting the ball a long way. So being an athlete, being able to generate speed, there's no substitute for that. Because you have shorter shots into the green, which makes it easier to get your approach shot close. And that goes for the ladies' game and the men's game. I would say that in college, you need to be a really competent wedge player and putter. And if you can drive it pretty good short game, you can play really, really well because you have the ingredients there to score. So I tell all our juniors here, and I beat on them for it in terms of you've got to do this. Wedge game, work your wedges, understand how far you hit it because you get out of position, hit a wedge shot close, you can still make a par. And he talks about putting, short game, chipping, putting, pitching. That's the glue that holds a round together. If you're struggling and you hit a bad shot, your short game can save you. There's no substitute for that. And then you've got to put the ball in play. And I think that just try and figure out what allows you to score well. If you're super athletic and you can hit the ball a long way, then build your game around that. But if you're someone who tends to have more control, you hit a lot of greens, a lot like the ladies do, build your game around that. There's no one recipe. You've got to embrace yourself and your individuality and figure out what's your scoring recipe and what works best for you. And I really, golf is such a unique game. You have to embrace that. Don't worry about what everyone else is doing. Worry about what you're doing and what could make you play better.
That's this is awesome, and the advice. I mean, Patty, Mark, big thanks to you both. Thanks to Titleist and FootJoy for their support as a presenting partner to make this possible. And I guess last word of advice, maybe one word answer. There's been a lot of questions in the chat about balancing your life, right? Trying to balance of playing college golf or junior golf. Any advice on how to best balance, both from a player and coach standpoint?
For me, from my perspective and my experience, it's the time management. You gotta
Awesome.
manage your time wisely. Yeah.
And what do you think, Mark?
Yeah, I think, listen, if you're passionate about something and you want to do it, you're gonna make sacrifices and you may give up things that others are doing. I remember as a kid, my friends would be going out and doing things, and I wouldn't be because I wanted to get up at the crack of dawn and be at the golf course. And I think that anyone that's successful, they have a lot of sacrifices and they're willing to do things that others aren't. And at the end of the day, that's across all sports and high performance. It doesn't come easily, and you've got to be willing to make sacrifices, but the hard work definitely pays off, and the fruits of it are really, really meaningful, and the self-accomplishment is fantastic.
Amazing insight. And again, Patty and Mark, on behalf of our entire staff and everybody here tonight, thank you so much for joining us. And again, once everything wraps up, we'll send definitely, Mark, some information on yourself, the Academy for folks if they want to get in touch with you. And Patty will make sure to pass along your social media channels so folks can follow along with you. So Patty, all the best to you for the rest of the season, and congrats again on that major title. And Mark, again, thank you for all you do for junior golf and high school golf.
You got it, guys. Patty, enjoy the rest of your season, guys. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Take care, guys. Bye-bye. Wow, what an amazing start to the webinar here tonight. It's just awesome first hour. So with that, again, thanks to Patty and to Lonzo and to Mark and Titleist and FootJoy for setting that first hour up. And hey, if that couldn't be some great amazing insight, we got a great panel set up for you here for the next half hour. And shifting gears to our next segment on scholarships. So obviously we've talked about, varsity college golf scholarships and what that looks like, but we're really super excited to be joined by these next three. First on our panel is Rachel McBee from the PGA Works Foundation. We also have here tonight Michael Lowe from Youth on Course. And last but not least, we have Tim Orban from the Western Golf Association and the Evans Scholars Foundation. And probably many of you out there have heard of the three organizations. Maybe you know a lot about them, maybe you know just a little. But we're gonna talk about these because they ultimately sponsor college scholarships outside of a varsity athletic scholarship, and they want to share some insight with you about the financial impact of college and how there's so many organizations out there to help young men and women, even if they aren't playing at the varsity level. So Rachel, Michael, Tim, guys, thanks so much for being here tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being here. So we'll kind of go around the horn, and Rachel, I'll start with you tonight. And first off, would you mind maybe sharing with us and the audience, a little bit about yourself and what PGA Works really is and some of the work that you guys do on a day-to-day basis?
Sure. So I'll try to give the Cliff Notes version of myself. My story isn't sometimes nearly as exciting as some of the students probably watching. But I was a student athlete. I grew up as a junior golfer as well. My junior golf career started actually in Puerto Rico. That's where I was born, and spent most of my, my junior golf life. And then moved to the States, notably to Atlanta, Georgia. I attended golf camp at the University of Georgia, Go Dogs, for many, many moons and many, many years, rather, while I lived on the island. So Georgia was always a place that we knew was good for my golf game. But I will say I went down the collegiate route. I excelled at junior golf, loved my college career, but post-college, I think I always wanted to be more in the business side of golf. I think that was a little bit more of my calling, for lack of a better phrase. And I started at the first tee. I wanted to help junior golfers. I wanted to help especially women get into the sport, more girls get into the sport. We were seeing that we were losing a lot of girls to soccer, to dance, to cheerleading. So I wanted to be a representation that golf can be something that girls can also do and excel at and thrive. So worked at the First Tee of Eastlake, directed their girls golf programming, and then went to the PGA of America and worked on their championship golf. So I worked on their PGA championships since 2010 through 2013, and then landed here working for their foundation, PJ Reach. PJ Reach is the 501c3 of the Association of the PGA of America, and we have pillars within that. One of the pillars is inclusion, and that program is PGA Works. So PGA Works is all really focused on the business side of golf. Our other pillars and our other programmatic efforts, even within the association and the foundation, are about the player development and inviting more juniors from all backgrounds, all underrepresented backgrounds into the sport. Now we take it a step further with PGA Works and invite them into our business. It's an $84 billion business. Not everyone's going to go down the tour route. Not everyone's going to go down even the PGA professional route. So PGA Works really appeals to the golfer and even the non-golfer. We have programs, fellowships, career exploration events. We have a collegiate championship actually being contested in a few weeks at TPC Sawgrass. And then, of course, our golf management university scholarships. That's the route that's more typical to the PGA member. So we have 18 PGM or GMU universities. And I mean, essentially your major is golf. I mean, there's no better way to say it, but you're majoring in a sport that most of us love and sometimes love to hate or hate to love. So at the end of your graduation, you come out a Class A member and you are a full-fledged PGA member. But with our scholarships, we want to, again, be more intentional and drive more inclusiveness and invite and inspire more underrepresented talent into our sport, into our business, and into our membership.
Thanks, Rachel. Yeah, that's, like you said, I mean, what an awesome journey that you've been able to be part of. And like you said, I mean, it's something that hits home to me too, especially from that inclusivity aspect and maybe some of the areas and groups that typically, may not be as prevalent, within the game. So
Absolutely.
exactly. Absolutely. Amazing. And on that note too, like I said, just kind of want to have a roundtable discussion with everybody. And Michael, a lot of people probably have heard of Youth on Course, right? And or maybe even seen, some of the commercials as well. And obviously, I think you guys just recently have a new brand ambassador too, which is fantastic. But would you mind maybe sharing a little bit more with the audience about what the organization is and ultimately how it can really help benefit that high school golfer and family that's out there in the country?
Sure thing, Chris, and thanks for inviting me here today. Happy to join and be a part of this great discussion. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. So Youth on Course is a nonprofit organization that's really just focused on access and kind of breaking down the barriers that have existed in golf for so long. And one of the primary barriers being cost. Golf is such an expensive sport. The rising cost of youth sports spans beyond golf, right? And playing sports is so beneficial for young people's development. And so we really want to ensure that all young people can afford to play golf. So one of the primary things we do is we subsidize rounds of golf so that young people can play golf for $5 or less. And we actually partner with golf courses across the U.S. and Canada, more than 1,400 courses now, and a community of over 100,000 young people who are members of Youth on Course. So, for that kid who is just getting into the sport, we hope Youth on Course is that key to, introducing more young people to play. And for kids who really fall in love with it and are trying to compete and grow and develop their skills, playing more frequently, playing as many courses as possible is so important when it comes to player development as well. So we see a lot of young people who have goals of playing in high school, perhaps playing collegiately or even professionally, benefit so much from Youth on Course. A couple other things we do, we also focus on access to job opportunities. So we have high school internship and Caddy programs for high school age students. Again, heavily focused on first-time work experience, and getting a job is as hard as ever for young people. So we work with, again, industry partners to create those career opportunities like Rachel was touching on. And lastly, we provide access to higher education through our college scholarship program. So we award about $250,000 annually to roughly 20 students each year. And our college scholarships are need and merit based. Golf skill is not even considered really, but we certainly look at a passion and connection to the sport.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing, Michael. And I mean, that's the thing is probably for so many people that are listening here tonight, especially high school golf coaches, access, right? I mean, it's such a hot topic for so many coaches out there, so many teams, and, not having the budget, not having the funds to be able to access courses in the summer. And, so many of your facilities, young men and women, high school, junior age can access courses for as little as $5 a round. I mean, incredible.
We like to think so, and I mean, there's nothing better than hearing from young people and families who really benefit from the program, and we're able to do what we do. Again, we're a nonprofit organization, so we're able to provide these opportunities thanks to many donors and supporters who golf had a positive impact on their life, and they want to give back to the sport and care about helping young people.
I think it's incredible, just amazing work. Obviously, all three of you do. And, on that note, too, I want to bring Tim in. Like I said, this hits close to home for me, a former caddy myself at a private country club in Michigan for about 8 years, and I myself wasn't an Evans Scholar, but, knew a lot of friends who obviously went through the program. You guys just do amazing work. So Tim, let's talk about that. A little bit what the Evans Scholars Foundation is. Again, a lot of folks might be familiar with it in here, but some may not. So let's explore what the program's all about.
Sure. Thanks, Chris, and thanks everyone for taking some time out of your day. Love talking golf and caddying, so appreciate everyone's attention. With that being said, as Chris mentioned, I work for Western Golf Association and the Evans Scholars Foundation. The Evans Scholars Foundation is the charitable arm of the Western Golf Association. So we've been around since 1899, running the second oldest golf event on the PGA Tour, formerly known as the Western Open. For us older folks, younger folks would know it as the BMW Championship, the penultimate event on the PGA Tour to the Tour Championship. Over time as well, we've run the Western Amateur, Western Junior, Women's Western Amateur, Women's Western Junior, Korn Ferry event. We've ran some other ones, and started as a pure golf organization west of the Allegheny Mountains to complement the USGA. So back in 1899, Chicago, or just outside, was the West, believe it or not. So along came a famous golfer named Charles Chick Evans, who started as a caddy at the ripe age of 8, which should be a little bit challenging to get hired at the age of 8 these days. Things were different then. But with that being said, that's where he really fostered his love for the game of golf and went on to great amateur success. And concurrently, he was a student who had to drop out of school due to lack of funding, and that always bothered him. So Charles Chick Evans, after he won a U.S. Open and U.S. Amateur in the same year in 1916, it always bugged him after dropping out 1 year from Northwestern that he knew people weren't looking out for caddies in the caddy yard, and he always wanted to help. So instead of taking money for his own personal gain, he set it aside and partnered with Western Golf to create the Evans Scholars Foundation. So in 1930, 2 young caddies went to Northwestern on full tuition and housing scholarships. And fast forward to today, we have 1,045 Evans Scholars, young men and women, attending 19 different universities from across the country. So these are all full tuition and housing scholarships. They all live in Evans Scholarship homes. And, it's really a game changer, having been fortunate enough, as Chris mentioned, to grow up a caddy starting in my early teenage years. I started as a great summer job. That really fostered my love for the game of golf. Got a little frustrated caddying for some bad golfers, but that made me want to practice and get after it. And it was a great way for me, to complement some of the other efforts that we're talking about to help finance that love for the game of golf. So with that being said, what we do as an organization is use caddying as a stepping stone job, and really take a caddy and help get them to college and then mold that into a career. So it's really an exciting time in golf, and that's our little role of growing the game. And, really just by definition, a lot of people thought geographically our program might not be accessible to certain individuals. We've worked very hard and continue to work hard to bring youth caddying opportunities across the country. So many of our friends on this call are, rowing in the same direction as us, and really an exciting time. So for anyone who is caddying, great. Anyone who's looking for maybe a flexible job where you can make some great money and meet some great people, it's a great way to, really kind of stay close to the game, stay in shape, learn a lot about golf courses, learn a lot about people, and, oh, by the way, pay for college in its entirety. So,
right. Love that, Tim. And I know Chris might mention it as well, and I speak for him too, but he and I both, we're former caddies growing up. And, like you said, not only the connections you make and the networking opportunities. I mean, myself, my first job out of college was from a gentleman that I caddied for 5-6 years. Was able to travel 1,000 miles to Florida and work for one of the CEOs of a large franchise company, and just incredible opportunities and an opportunity to really be your own boss. In the summer months. I mean, what an awesome opportunity for a kid who plays golf, or maybe even those who aren't that involved in the game as well.
You got it. And I think Rachel and Michael, obviously, there's a lot of great options here in front of you, for everybody on this call. And again, some of these might land a little closer to home or be more readily available to you. So I encourage everyone to approach it with an open mind. And as we all know, as golfers on this call, with varying skill levels, it's much easier to learn to become a successful caddy than it is to become a really successful golfer. You can learn to caddy It's very different than playing golf, but you can learn to caddy with some of our tools and other ones available really within about a week or so. So you as a golfer have a big advantage becoming a successful caddy because of your background with the game. So you would probably pick it up a lot quicker than some other young people. So we see many young people that take advantage of this and really kind of have a much steeper learning curve in a good way. So really for the Evans Scholarship, Chris, just to hit a couple points so everybody understands too, that's great. How do I get it? Well, obviously caddying's at the core of what we do, based on what I shared. So good time to get started is usually early on in high school, somewhere after 8th grade or 9th grade. That allows you a runway of 3 to 4 summers or seasons, I should say, to caddy and accumulate loops. And then the other piece is having strong character and leadership. And then obviously, if you look at our partner schools from Notre Dame and Northwestern to Kansas and Oregon and Penn State and all things in between, you have to be a very good student. So academics, like everything in life, play a big role. So it's important to be a very good student because it's competitive, full tuition and housing. And then the not the last piece, but the fourth component is demonstrating financial need. We talk a lot about finances and things like that. This isn't something that you as a young person can really control beyond maybe, how hard you work and things like that. So if you are fortunate enough where maybe you wouldn't qualify, feel blessed. Many of you, if you're looking for another pathway to get to college and you're not sure how you're going to do it, maybe you can use golf as a springboard. Maybe you can use caddying. As Chris mentioned, and the way I like to put it is each time you caddy, it's like a 4-hour internship, right? So you're working, rubbing shoulders with successful adults in the community, and it can open up a lot of doors for you. So if you check those 4 boxes, you have a really high probability of being awarded an Evans Scholarship, and we're in a period of growth. So, we encourage everybody to do it. And if you're looking to find a local club near you, on our website, we have what's called the WGA Caddy Program Locator. You can punch in your address and see a list of clubs and, hopefully in your area that you can access and reach out to and hopefully seek out a caddy job. You can also just contact us directly through the website too, and we can help point you in the right direction.
Awesome. This has been great. No, I can appreciate that, being a caddy for 12 years, Tim, and getting the Francis Ouimet Scholarship, which is another caddy scholarship out here in the Northeast. So I think it's important to know for everybody listening that there's opportunities to get academic scholarships, to get caddy scholarships, youth on course, PGA Works, people that come from diverse backgrounds that are looking and may not have the means and affordability. So there's a lot of resources, not just the 3 that are on here tonight that are there to help you. And I have there's been a few questions of what's the best way to apply for the scholarships from John. We had one from Alanis, the same. We'll send information about these 3 scholarships and where you can apply after the event. So don't be worried about that. We'll get you all that information. And there was also a question here from Jack who said, how do you stand out? So obviously all 3 of you manage fantastic foundations and scholarships programs. Like, I'll start with you, Rachel. Like, what do you look for? How do you stand out? If you're a student or a parent that wants their student to stand out more, like what's your criteria? What's your number 1?
Oh goodness, that's a tough question. Good question though. For us it's a little different. I will say we're excuse me, and maybe it's not too different. Sorry, my mute just went kind of off there. There is a level of, this is my favorite word when I talk about what we do. There's a level of intentionality that I think all of us do within our programs. We, PJ Works, is very focused on engaging underrepresented and historically marginalized demographics. And I'm level setting this question, Chris, in the sense of we recently partnered with an organization called Jockwell, and they did a really incredible market research study that polled and surveyed students from Latinx backgrounds, African American backgrounds, Asian American backgrounds. And there was an overwhelming percentage that saw golf as something very cool to be a part of. And it was different age ranges, not just sort of in the post-secondary education, but also middle school and high school. But there was an underwhelming percentage of the access points. So what Michael was talking about, was Tim was talking about, these access, these resources. That's what all of these programs are designed to do. So with with our programs, and I'll really go into our fellowships and our scholarships, is the passion to make an impact. I mean, our whole model is making an impact through golf, and our fellowships specifically are not always designed for the golfer. We've had a lot of non-golfers participate, and Michael, I know, we were going to, before COVID hit, before that 2020 year hit, we were going to partner with organizations like Youth on Course with our Beyond the Green and Career Exploration event at TPC Harding Park to create those access points. But there is a level of passion that comes along with applying for either our fellowships or our scholarships. Our scholarships as well are designed for membership, or PJ membership, and I think that gets a little bit of a myth as to what that looks like. There's been this myth, and I'll admit, I mean, I was one of the first to go down that PGM route way back when at Penn State, and it was designed for green grass facilities. It was 100% very teacher focused, but it's really scaled, it's really evolved to be such an incredible asset and a feather in your cap, if you will, if you have an interest in the golf industry. There's executive management routes, and there's sort of the teaching and coaching route. So I encourage our students to also really look at PGA membership through the lens of not always that green grass facility. That is a traditional route to take, but I encourage students to really look at PGA membership through a broader lens, a broader asset to their golf journey and their golf career. And quite frankly, I mean, we have severely underrepresented talent, especially from a gender and racially based perspective, that we want to change. And that's really the premise of what we are trying to do within the scope of PJ Works and the programs under that platform. So I know it's a hard question to answer, Chris, but there is a level of passion to make an impact through golf that really translates into what our scholars and our fellows and a lot of our programmatic participants really get out of and are ultimately awarded.
Awesome. So passion to make an impact. So Michael, on your side, what stands out? If you go through a lot of applications, it's what stands out to you? What's most important?
We do go through a lot of applications. I saw someone in the chat ask if any of our organizations have scholarships that go unused. And for us, we don't, unfortunately. We had this year, for example, over 500 students apply for our college scholarship opportunities. And again, we award, typically between 17 to 20, 24 or so scholarships per year. So they're highly competitive. I would say, I'm blown away each year. Our whole staff, our team, our scholarship committee that reviews applications. There are so many talented young people doing things today that, I couldn't even imagine doing when I was a young person. I mean, we've, met students who've started their own nonprofit organizations, right? Who have, just volunteered and poured their passion into different charitable causes and ways to give back. And those are kind of the things, some of the things that really stand out, I guess, when our team looks at applications. And I think this goes back to us being a nonprofit organization and, our scholarships being one way we give back. In turn, we like to recognize and support students who are passionate about giving back, whether that be in golf or some other important cause. But so everyone knows our application, it's an online application. I added this in the chat, but the application period typically runs from September through January. It's an online application. We review those online applications, and then we narrow down the pool of candidates to 70 to 75 or so finalists who we actually conduct interviews with to get to know students better than we can on paper. Because it is challenging to kind of make yourself stand out or shine on an application, or essentially what a resume is when when it comes time to apply for jobs. So, be yourself, be honest. No one is perfect. I'd say we'll ask questions about, right? Telling us about a time you made a mistake and something you learned from it. And some people are scared to answer that question openly. But really we just want to, we get behind, again, people, young people who are passionate about the sport, giving back, and have a strong connection to Youth on Course.
Awesome.
Just to piggyback a little off what Michael was saying, something that stands out is turning your passion into a career. I mean, I feel as though a lot of our applicants have this sort of organic passion for golf, and if they want to turn it into a career, I think there are some standouts that do happen with these online applications. And as Michael said, I even think the application process I know for me, is going to continue to evolve. I mean, there might be elements of, look at the virtual world that we're in. We could have videos added versus just paper applications and these sort of static questions that we're asking. Because, Michael, you bring up a good point. Sometimes it's hard to stand out in just sort of a paper application, just a singular question versus really getting to know one. But I do think there's a level of turning your passion into a career that also comes through with some of the applicants coming through. And like us, we are an online-based application system right now. Typically opens around December. We're very strategic about sort of the questions that are imposed and to bring out those standout sort of that we're alluding to. But just wanted to piggyback. I think turning your passion into a career really kind of comes through in some of those answers.
Awesome. Thanks, Rachel. And Tim, last but not least, I know you mentioned leadership before, but the Evans Scholarship's highly competitive. Any advice that you would say, whether they're applying for the Evans or any scholarship that you guys look for that really helps people stand out?
Yeah, one thing specific to the Evans Scholars Foundation, and really probably any scholarship, is going to be, attitude and effort, right? What have you done? What are you willing to do? And caddies by trade really inherently exhibit that each and every day. And a lot of it might be seeking out a tip or learning a different personality or working with different people from different schools. That's one of the main things. But as we talk about, caddies to college to career, and really when you're in college, a lot of our, quote unquote secret sauce, our alumni are very active. We have a very tight network, but a lot of the skills living together in community and learning to work with other people from different backgrounds, similar backgrounds, but demonstrating those leadership skills. So a lot of that's through, volunteering, even at a very small and local level. A lot of it's being a leader, both in the caddy yard, within your school, and within your Evans Scholarship House. So there's a lot of opportunities for young people. Not everyone's a valedictorian. Not everyone's a scratch golfer. Not everyone's perfect, as Michael said well. But that being said, you can really set yourself apart with some of these intangibles and get yourself to the top of the application pile, so to speak. Again, we're online as well, but a lot of those things can really delineate you from other people. And again, what we found is our network is a lot of people within Western Golf and Evans Scholars, a lot of our directors, our alumni, they seek out a lot of young people that come up through various caddy programs because they know that a lot of young people are self-starters. They're getting up early in the morning. They have a different boss every day. They're learning to manage time and money and all those types of things. So that's very, very appealing for internships and entry-level jobs and experienced jobs. So it really lends itself to a path to success. And as Rachel said, so many opportunities within golf and other careers that, you can really use it as a springboard for. So those would be a couple main quick hits.
Well said, Tim. 3 fantastic organizations, amazing opportunities, fantastic opportunities for so many golfers out there, regardless of whether or not, like you said, they're playing varsity or non, and some of the non-traditional routes. So again, Rachel, Michael, Tim, thank you all for joining us here tonight, and we really, really appreciate it. We will be sending the information, obviously, on all of your programs to the attendees following so they can get all the information. I'll be sure to include your guys' contact information if they want to learn more. But again, we appreciate your guys' support of high school golfers everywhere, parents and coaches, and wish you all the best for the rest of the year here.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah,
Have a great
thanks
night,
a lot,
everyone.
Chris.
Thanks, guys. Thanks so
everyone.
much. Awesome. Thank you. And again, special thanks to our partners, Titleist FootJoy, Junior Golf Hub, who will be joined here, and along with the Southern Texas PGA. We got a rock star panel coming up for you guys in the next segment here, so we're excited. So shifting gears now to really talking about the recruiting process specifically, we got some great folks who do some amazing work within the recruiting space in the junior golf world, and two members of the Junior Golf Hub team tonight, Roger Nick, who is the CEO of Junior Golf Hub. And we also have Rick Dowling, who is the Director of Customer Success. Rick works with all of the families at Junior Golf Hub. He does a fantastic job with it. And they help players and parents really navigate the journey to college golf, right? While helping varsity college coaches find top talent. And also, last but not least, joining Rick and Roger tonight is the Executive Director of the Southern Texas PGA and the Southern Texas PGA Junior Golf Program. We have Mr. Thomas Hutton. And Thomas is a PGA member who graduated from Methodist University from the PGM, the Professional Golf Management Program, in 2010. And like I said, he's current Executive Director of the South Texas PGA, one of the 41 sections from across the country. And they actually have one of the largest junior golf programs in the country, with over 3,500 members and 400 tournaments that they run all year. Pretty impressive. And they believe in creating lifelong golfers through its 5 tournament programs and allowing juniors to develop, right, into their own selves at their own pace and take part in the journey through each program. So Rick, Roger, Thomas, thank you all for joining us here tonight. I'll let you guys take it away.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Chris.
Yeah, thank
Hey,
you.
everybody.
Good evening, everybody. And I guess Chris and I wore the tie, all professional here at the Southern Texas PGA. But hello, world, and thank you so much for being a part of this session. And Roger and Rick, I look forward to talking about some things. And really, I want to turn it to you guys to start it off. Junior Golf Hub, quite a platform, quite something that you guys have invested. From my perspective, it's always good when you find a business that wants to invest in that next generation of youth golfers and help them get to where they want to go. So really, I want to turn it to you guys for you guys to maybe share a little bit more about the platform, the services that you all provide, and really your overall goals when helping families. So I'll let you guys take that first one.
Awesome. Thanks, Thomas. And again, thanks everyone for showing up tonight. Love to talk about our passion. As we just heard with the last panelist, the passion that so many people show for the game of golf, and obviously junior golf specifically, I think we share in that as well. And I think the idea here is for us, I'll let Rick talk more about the product itself and the platform, but I'd like to just chime in and say that the passion that we have for what we're doing really is what's driving everything that we do. Our goal is to make a positive impact on humanity through the game landscape of competitive junior golf, and we've just been so proud and to be a part of this. So again, thanks so much for us being on this and being able to share some of the things that we've learned over the years on the recruiting process and how we can maybe help some people there. So I'll just say that, and I'll let Rick talk about the ins and outs of our Junior Golf Hub.
Yeah, thanks, Roger. One way that we're striving to make a positive impact is through the establishment of the Junior Golf Hub application. It's an online community, something you can find in the app stores. And a way to characterize it is the word "the hub." We're trying to create a one-stop shop resource that can live in your pocket, very easily accessible. That's going to give the family, the junior golfer, and their parents and their team that's helping them get better, all the tools and education resources they need in one space. So we've been around for a little over 4.5 years now. We partner with great organizations like the Southern Texas PGA and other PGA sections to really get that resource to the families, support them getting better at golf, supporting their passion and their goals they have with golf and in life with our application.
Yeah, and I think what's really important in this digital age that we're all sitting in this lovely digital space here as we talk today, walk me through, I think, what I always tell junior golf parents about the recruiting process is in today's world, coaches can really sit on their couch and recruit, because everything's in that digital space. And, talk to me about maybe your services, your platform, even some ins and outs on that digital golf resume that you hear people asking, like, hey, how can I, send this to this coach or send it to this coach? What should I do? How can I show my results? But, what's a little bit of, tidbit of information on creating your digital profile, for lack of a better word there?
Yeah, that's so true, Thomas. I think Rachel mentioned it when talking about the scholarships. It's so important to have a digital marketing tool to get, enhance your exposure. Also track your own development, all of the effort and time you're putting into your game and academics. Where can you put that? Can you put it in one space? And then also use that to attract potential coaches and programs. So the Junior Golf Hub, like I said earlier, it really centralizes all one tool. You can build a fluid digital resume that evolves with you. It's not just a static Word document that you have to go in, update, and save every time. It's like it will evolve as you grow, have new experiences, play in new tournaments, work with your coach. We also have a tournament suite, which allows you to tap into thousands of junior golf tournaments and make sense of that landscape, and then create your own custom tournament calendar and attach that to your resume. And again, for the college-bound players who may be more developed, more experienced, and hoping to play college golf, we have a college suite that has a database of some 2,200 college golf programs and their profiles, which are edited and withheld by they're supported by the college golf coaches themselves. You can connect, perform research in that database, and use your profile and almost like a social media network, connect with them on our tool. There's also an extensive library of education as well as a college golf checklist, which I'm sure we'll get to. Are there major milestones, and can I do this myself? Yes, you can. There is a roadmap, and that's also in the Hub's Essential Guide, which is going to help you kind of understand what to do and when, and what's the next step.
Well, yeah, let's dive into that, because that is always the magical question. When can I do this? Can I call the coach then? Can I do, can I go talk to them at the event? Are they incognito that they're really not there? What are those, major milestones, or how have you kind of navigated that? The NCAA all has policies, they always change them, but it's an ever changing landscape. And, again, from my perspective, where we're administering those events, for everybody on this call, check out Junior Golf Hub, go to their platform, do your own research, but, maybe touch on that of, those milestones, for playing college golf. What do you think are maybe the top 2 or 3 things that you want to communicate?
Yeah, I think the big ones would be maybe sophomore year, June 15th. I think that's like when the proverbial doors open. However, I would caution everyone not to wait until that time to kind of get started. You should start whenever you really want to know, when you know that college golf is your goal. Start laying the groundwork and begin constructing your plan with the tool as soon as you know you want to play college golf and play golf for a very long time. So that June 15th for the Division I and Division II programs is like when you can have contact with a college golf coach. Another big one I think that is often overlooked, these are all in the checklist that we have, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year of high school. What are the things I have to check off to maintain my progression towards college golf? The other one I'll mention is probably the NCAA clearinghouse, making sure I'm doing all the right things to be an eligible student athlete. And that's a small nominal fee to register for those clearinghouses, and just make sure you're doing the core requirements and maintaining your amateurism. But that's something you should check off before you get really late down the road with some coaches and programs. So sometime late sophomore year, early junior year.
Yeah, definitely, and that's really good. Again, check out Junior Golf Hub for all that information. I think I'm going to go a little off script here because you did make mention of checklists and milestones. Of I always look at the word milestone, and this is to all the parents watching right now that hey, where is my kid in the journey? We've used that term tonight of like the junior golf journey of, from a beginner all the way to a college player. I'm, as the introduction said, I'm the executive director for the Southern Texas PGA. We're all about creating lifelong golfers that can play this sport forever. It's not just, go play college and then be done. We want everyone to keep playing golf for the longest time. But really, when we talk about milestones, it's also important to be very realistic. I was watching early on when Lonzo spoke to kick things off, and he got a text message from his VCU coach that just said, play local, win, and scores matter. Of like, be realistic in those milestones. You talk about entry-level programs that are local, and then you go all the way up to regional and national events. I hate to break it to parents, but more times than not, your kid's probably playing one program ahead than they probably should be. Coming in 50th place in a tournament doesn't really get you much of like, hey, let's go play at the next level. Well, you just came in 50th at the entry-level event. Why are you moving up yet? Coaches are looking for you to win. They're looking for you to, play against adversity. And then really, once your game's at that level, go to the next level. So, I share that from a milestone perspective for parents of, you have these milestones of when you talk with coaches, but there's also milestones for yourself of getting better in your game. How am I improving? What are my scores doing? And then sharing that throughout these channels like Junior Golf Hub is right here. So kind of a tidbit of information there to throw everybody off, but I think it was worthwhile with some of the trends we're talking about throughout this process.
Thomas, I think that's well said. I think that is one of the things that we hear very often, when talking with parents and then talking to even coaches for that matter. We hear quite a bit, college coaches are asking, hey, why are these kids jumping to events that they shouldn't be playing in? We have a system. We rank events in level 1, level 2, level 3 events, and let's learn how to crawl, walk, and then run, right? So it's really very important for the student or the player, the student athlete to be able to understand realistically where they are. And we talk about this a lot at our academy as a skill challenge ratio, and we're just talking about, I think most people and parents, I'll talk to the parents a little bit, talking about or assuming their kid's skill level is better than it is, and they've heard rumor or heard word that said you need to play in certain such and such event in order to be recruited, but yet their skill level isn't there, and they don't really understand that. And I think that is a very big mistake on a lot of parents and players of playing outside of their realm. And I think that adds to pressure, right? I mean, I think at the end of the day, we're seeing kids not only in sports, but also academically adding this pressure on themselves because of these things, right? So it's really important to understand why we're, playing in certain events and playing to where you are. And it doesn't mean that you can't take a, as we call it in professional baseball, take a sip of coffee or take a cup of coffee in the majors, right? I mean, you want to experience what that's like so you know how to prepare yourself. And but I think it's one of those big mistakes we see a lot with parents and players trying to run before they can crawl, if you will. And we've had even at our academy at the Golf Performance Center, we've had such good success with our long-term athletic development in the sense of our players. I mean, we have kids who are freshmen that were in our program that end up, couldn't break 90, that ended up winning national championships, when they were in college, with a D2, D3, and some national champions in Division I that really weren't where they thought they wanted to be, or not, they weren't where they wanted to be, but, knew that they were developing towards, their ultimate goal of playing their best golf, later on in life. And I agree with you in the sense of golf is a game for a lifetime, which is, why we have to understand really golf is a very difficult sport. It's not easy. Player development, and understanding true good player development is very critical in this whole process. And I think, what the PGA is doing with the long-term development programs that they're instituting and, what other countries are doing, I think it's so critical that we understand that process. It will take a lot of pressure off of players. Play where you are, work to be where you want to be, right? So, and I think that's really, important.
Yeah, and you take the example again, going back to Lonzo Griffin of what he's done of going to VCU and playing, and now he's a winner on the PGA Tour. You look at a Zach Johnson from Iowa, middle of the country, went to the local school, local PGA unconventional in that. There's so many of those stories out there that, any youth sport. Again, I got 2 young kids that are under 4 years old, and I'm already thinking about that. But it's like, well, let's calm down here. We don't need to get ahead of ourselves. What you do when you're 14 can be totally different than what you're doing when you're 24, and you're probably not even going to be behind when you're 24. So there's just a lot of, kind of a realistic gut check out there to really, again, play golf for a lifetime, and you never know where that sport's going to take, where this sport's really going to take you. From working in the industry to what you all do, to everybody that you've heard on this call, from tour players to the PGA of America to youth on course. There's so many opportunities within the golf space that, again, I think if parents have the mentality of making it a lifelong journey, the wins are far going to outseed the losses, whether or not that's playing D1, whether or not that's winning a PGA Tour event, or just playing for a lifetime. The sport is so impactful, and it's fun to be a part of. It's fun to be partners with people like yourself, with Junior Golf Hub, and have this opportunity to talk with parents around the country.
Yeah, absolutely. It is fun.
I was going to step in. I had a couple questions. We've had a number of questions coming in here from the chat and otherwise. And I'll start with you, Thomas. So, can you share any stories about maybe juniors that played on the South Texas PGA? And there's been a number of questions about how do you get recognized out of state. So maybe some players that played on South Texas PGA that are now playing at colleges, on the East Coast. So can you talk a little bit about that? And then I'll ask the same question to Rick and Roger, like how do you get recognized out of state with Junior Golf Hub too? And we'll start with Thomas and then start with Todd.
Yeah, honestly, it is a unbelievable experience to see kids grow and develop. You think about drive, chip, and putt, the women's Augusta National Women's Amateur. The STPGA had 4 girls play in that tournament that had a combined 50 wins with the STPGA growing up. The idea that our program is developed from being a beginner level in our Little Linksters program, going all the way up to our Prestige Tour level, which is our high-end 36-hole events. And then we're part owners of a statewide program too. I think the key there is, again, the idea of play local, win local, have your scoring average get better and better, and then those college coaches see you. The idea that I'm a student and, hey, I don't want to stay in Texas, very uncommon because everyone in Texas loves staying in Texas. But for your question, Chris, I think you're spot on of just, hey, there are so many opportunities out there. Keep progressing along our program, along the track that is local. That's going to be different amongst every state. Some of it's going to be with a PGA section. There's 41 PGA sections in the country. A vast majority of them have developmental programs, have 1-day, 2-day events, and then they're even working on regional events. So find your local PGA section. There's 41 of them. If you have questions on where to find out, feel free to reach out to myself. I'll gladly steer you in the right direction. But then also use Junior Golf Hub. They mentioned of a consortium of all tournaments. Jump on their site and you're going to be able to find things locally. But again, play local, win local, and then again, state externally of where you might want to go.
Awesome. Anything else to add, Rick or Roger, from your perspective?
That was perfect.
Man, you guys are giving me too much. That's a harder question.
Well, this is kind of an interesting one. It's a follow up to that, but John wanted to add. John Wiley said, "Is it better to play in a few tournaments or a lot of tournaments?" And also, Carissa had the same thing. She said, "I have a junior that's been told that only should play in bigger tournaments like a junior am." It's kind of interesting because Lonzo Griffin, who was on before, said, "Playing everything you can, everything you can afford, and just keep competing and keep competing." I think rankings are a huge topic in junior golf. So I'll turn it over to you, both to say, what do you think about rankings, few tournaments, more tournaments? Like, parents are asking and curious on your opinions.
I'll turn over to you, Roger, then. I think you're on mute, Roger, right now. The one thing I'll just say about rankings is you can chase it. Everybody has the right to chase it. Is that the right thing to do? Is that the wrong thing to do? You can make arguments both sides. But what I would say is the overall thought that know where you're trying to get to and then figure out a path to it. You don't want to burn out your son or daughter. I've seen parents where they travel for one summer and then the next summer take off. you can do that. But I'm for a nice, consistent schedule. Build it out. Work with your PGA professional, your coach on it, and make it something that fits with you. Don't feel like you need to go chasing would be my answer to that question.
Yeah, that's a great answer, Thomas. I think one of the things we see way too often is there's people are playing golf as a means to an end to get college scholarship. I think first and foremost you got to love the game and you got to love to want to compete, and that grows through competing. And whether you compete in U.S. Kids Tour to any local tour, PGA Section Tour to Hurricane Tour, you name it, it doesn't really matter. You got to love and want to go out there and compete. And obviously, as what we said earlier, is I think it is important to play where you are and then experience new things as you grow and as you develop, so that not to lose your confidence in your understanding of where you are as a developing young player. So yeah, rankings unfortunately has gotten a stronghold on so many parents who think that it's only the way to go. Like, let's play in big events because your rankings get dropped in other little events. Quite honestly, I mean, more college coaches that we talk to, they could care less about rankings as long as you're out there competing and you're developing and getting better. That's the best way to do it. And you'll find a place. Trust me, there's plenty of programs out there that are looking for someone who wants to compete. Those who are skipping events, and I'll speak to a lot of people right now. We hear this, way too often. People skipping events because they're afraid their rankings may go down. That's a red flag for most college coaches that we talk to that say, we're not looking for that player who wants to dodge a bullet. Get out there, put yourself out there in front of that and play golf and learn from all the experiences. And by the way, being a great teammate is going and playing with kids that you may or may not think that they are as talented as you, because one day they may be kicking your butt. And just learning from them is really key to your own growth as well. So get out there and play golf. Don't look at the rankings. They'll take care of themselves. It's kind of, as we always say, in preparation is the lead factor and the score is the lag factor. It'll take care of itself if you're doing everything you can do to prepare yourself to be your best.
Awesome. No, it's great. It's great advice. I think you can't just be just focused on the rankings, and it could negatively hurt you in that way. So it's great advice. I have a question from Stacy. You'll appreciate this, Thomas. Stacy's son's a junior interested in Methodist PGM, so you might have a sales pitch here on Methodist, but this might be more for Rick. He heard back from the coach, but now what does he do? Should he do a visit? Should he wait for the coach to initiate? Like, what are the next steps? Can you just talk a little bit about that process, Rick, of contacting coaches?
Yeah, sure. I think he who hesitates is lost. Be proactive and be very open and transparent about your goals and intentions. I think that's a guiding light when it comes to coach communication. Don't shy away from using different media and really taking a lead in the conversation. If you have a passion and a goal to go to the PGM program as well as play on the golf team, that's your goal. Pursue it, make it known, and do everything it takes to get there. And obviously communicating with the coach, developing a relationship, kicking it off via email, phone call, and then maybe next step going for a visit, taking a campus tour when they begin to be allowed again, and seeing where it goes. That would be my advice for that.
Great advice. Absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of great insight from obviously all three of you. And yeah, I'll let you guys kind of close it out. I mean, again, so many of these young men and women in here who are looking to play college golf. We give them just the biggest word of advice. What would it be?
What would it be?
Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to fail. Try to develop a gritty. And I think, based on what Thomas was talking about earlier with Lanto, play as many tournaments as possible. Someone who has that mindset isn't afraid to fail. They have a long-term growth mindset, and everything they're taking in is just experience. There's no good or bad. It's just more experience that's going to make me a better player and push me towards my goals. Developing something like that has helped me personally as a golfer, and I can't stress that enough. And I hope people can tap into the resources on the hub, tap into the resources at the PGA section level to help you get to where you want to be.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
I think don't be afraid to fail, play, enjoy the journey, enjoy your journey, because it is your journey, those junior golfers out there, and parents